Hello again, it's Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher. Welcome back to Studio B. Now, in other videos you might have heard me complaining and whining about these hex key Allen wrench type holders. I actually like these. And by the way, this one I only bought like a month ago when I was doing my little hit and miss engine. I needed some metric, but I also have regular imperial. And my complaint is that it's so difficult to return these to the rack here. In other words, if I would use this one and then, all right, I'm done with it, I'll put it back. You know, sometimes it's a job and a half to get the holes lined up, and it's just frustrating to me. Now, it just went real easy there, of course, because I'm filming, but it's not always that easy, and I have heard other people complain about this as well. So I'm going to make a couple racks and throw away the sheet metal ones. But before I do, let me tell you a couple possible fixes for these, because they really are nice looking stands and they can be mounted on the wall or just set on the bench or whatever, carried to your job. And all right, let's look at some fixes first. Now, no one's actually going to do this, but you could take little pieces of tubing. This is aluminum, but probably should be steel tubing or copper tubing or something, and cut them to the exact right length and solder them in place. But you know, that wouldn't be easy because you got to remove the paint and everything, so nobody's going to do that. That's a crazy idea, but it makes the hole continuous. But one other thing I might point out here is that they went so far as to punch these holes or form the holes as hexagons. Now, I don't have any hexagon drills, so I can't do that. But that also keeps the orientation when you put it back together so that the handles line up and, you know, don't get all crooked like that. And just yesterday in a comment, someone suggested taking a piece of wood of the appropriate size and mounting it in here and drilling the holes all the way through. And that would really be a lot better solution than using tubing, but those are two possibilities. I'm not doing either one of those. So over the years you've seen me use different stands. Now this is just a piece of 2x4 here, and I've got my hand reamers and my machine reamers. And this is just handier than heck. So years ago I made this one and I never did like it, but the whole idea here was it was going to hold standard hex keys and the T-handle type and the screwdriver bondus, whatever it is, in there. But in the end, you know, I'm in a hurry and I just throw things in here, and these handles tangle. I really don't like these at all, and in fact I never use them. I should throw this whole thing away, but that's not what this video is about. So essentially what I'm doing here is making a rack for these that'll look like this, and I've already got some wood here, and this is beech wood, and if you're going to do this for best results, use beech wood. It's a nice hard wood, it had beautiful grain, it's one of my favorites. And this, where are you going to get beech wood? I know. Well, 40 years ago I went through the dumpster at school there. It was right by the well. I walked by it every day. But someone in the athletic department had thrown away quite a large gymnastic device from the girls' gym, and it was made of beech wood. So, and it was all bolted together. I took it apart and I've had it up on the garage joists for 35 or 40 years. And you see me use this from time to time, and I have to cut around the holes. And I can prove to you that this came from a school because there's graffiti on it. Now, old J.H., whoever that was, well, it was a girl, the girls' gym, so it's a girl. But my mom always said fools' names and fools' faces are always seen in public places, and she wasn't kidding. So I had this beech wood in two different sizes, so I'm going to make one of each, but I'm probably better off with the wider one. And I've cut them to length, and they are the same length, or approximately the same length. I thought they were. Yeah. Like that. So I'm going to lay out some holes, and I'm going to drill, and really that's all that's to it. So I'm not going to show the complete layout, but Let's find the center line first. I took a measurement here on the distance between the holes, and it's not the same. As we get farther down this end, naturally, the distance between the center's holes varies a little bit, as you can see. So what I'm going to do, because of the diameter of these, of course, I think you understand that. So what I'm going to do here off camera, I'm just going to take a little square and transfer. Well, there it is. I have center punched the wood. Who center punches wood? I do. I center punch wood. Why is Bubba's hammer sitting here so conveniently? You'll see later. Sometimes I think I waste time going too far because, you know, I center punch and then I drill a tiny little pilot hole that's just a little bit over 1/16. But when you drill pilot holes like this, your larger drills aren't going to drift on you. And this beech wood is pretty close grained wood. That's one thing that I like about it. And I love the grain. And you know, there's even a brewery company, I think it's Coors, that does some phony thing with beech wood. You know, it's probably all Madison Avenue baloney, but they do mention beech wood. If I can get a close view on the characteristic grain, to me it's just gorgeous. Now I'm not going to finish this, you know, or sand the ends or anything. This is just a rough stand. I want to get it done, and I've already wasted a half hour. I'm ready to drill holes, and how will I determine the hole size? Just by taking, for instance, the smallest one here and determining that it is 7/64. 7/64. And I'm going to go right on down the line, and I already marked this. This is the large end for the large holes. And how deep? Probably about that deep. After all, in the stand they go all the way to the bottom, but I don't want to drill all the way through. Probably about 1/4 inch from the bottom. Well, I already ran into a problem. For the smallest one, the drills are only that long, so that's about how deep I can go. So either that or look through my long drill selection, but I know I won't have all the sizes that I need. So to start with, I'm just going to go in on the smaller ones to this depth and see how this works out. When we get to the large ones, of course, we got plenty of length. I'm not going to show much of the drilling, but I do have the depth stop set so that they're all about the same depth. And you got to back it out because the flutes do not go all the way up. I probably do not need to tell you this, but just a minute ago I fumbled, and as I took the drill out of the chuck, I slipped and it bounced off the table and went into a garbage can half full of chips. You think I'm going to dig through that? No way. I'm a man that owns tens of thousands of drill bits, so I just went to the cabinet and got a new one of that size. Okay, it's working out pretty well. I only have one more hole to drill, and it's been a lot of swapping of drills and setting the depth and everything, so I get them approximately the same. So we got one more to go, and I must tell you, you're far better off having a hole that's a little bit too large than one where you have to force it in, because this whole thing is to get away from swearing and frustration and anger. So we want them to slide in and out quite easily. I'll be right back. It's looking pretty good, but the problem I'm having is that some of these are bent. As I said, it pays to buy the best. Well, these came from a garage sale or something anyway. The other thing, if I were to do this over, I would allow a little bit more space between each one, because as it is, you can't fit a cigarette paper, which is 1/1000th of an inch through there, or you see what I mean? So I don't want to have to fight that, because I'm trying to get away from fighting. And lastly, I'm going to take countersinks, and I'm going to countersink each hole just a little bit to actually kind of resemble a funnel, so they go in easily. Okay, I've countersunk. I've broken the corners with the sander. Actually, I burned it off with a dull belt. So let's put it back together. I have no intention of painting it, and since my belt is so dull, I can't really finish the ends, but it doesn't matter. I got to remember what this is sometimes. Okay, the imperial one is done, and now I have to do the metric with the smaller piece, and since it's just a total repetition, I'm not going to show that, but I'll be back in 2 minutes, actually 2 seconds, with the finished one. I should point out that the metric ones are pretty close to being the same length as opposed to the imperial, which are quite different in length. So there's really 2 lengths here, and there's not too much difference between the 2. Okay, here's the metric stand, all countersunk, corners broken. Looking good. What I didn't notice earlier is that the handles on these 5 smaller ones are smaller than the handles on the larger ones. Or am I a champion of the obvious? What do you think? Leave a comment if you like this. Give me a thumbs down if you hated it. Was it senseless? Now, what am I going to do with these? Well, that'll be an extra credit because some of you may not want to watch that. This is Mr. Pete saying so long for now, and I'll see you next time. I do want to mark this with the word metric and probably USA or Imperial, or put a flag on this or something like that. Extra credit, fair warning, you may not like this. That's what I think about that kind of scrap iron, and that'll go in the recycle. Here's a sample of beechwood that I've sanded a little bit so you can see the grain. And you see the little specks here? I just find that so beautiful. In fact, I have been carrying as my favorite knives lately these Opinel, and they're carbon steel, none of that crazy stainless steel. And these are from France, and they have beechwood handles. Look at the grain. Not quite as noticeable in the smaller one. This one is very much pocket worn and shined compared to this one. These knives are relatively inexpensive. I just love them. The blades are so thin and sharp.